Hello, it's Danny here back at you for another day of Bible study. So let's jump in the word. Today we're talking about God is the same then as he is now. Even though things are different, he's the same as he was then. So we're going to jump into Jeremiah 31:34. It says, "Know the Lord, because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their wickedness and will remember their sins no more." We live our lives at lightning speed. And how can we not? We have families to raise, careers to develop, kids to homeschool, travel plans, goals to reach, things to learn, relationships to grow, Instagram accounts to update, Facebook accounts to update, TikTok, you name it, right? There are so many things that go on in our life. In the midst of all these demands, it can be hard to connect to ancient notions of promise and obligation, duty and responsibility. We might find ourselves asking, why should a set of ancient covenants matter now? What do these contractual agreements God made with other people have to do with our lives today? There's no denying it. We lead a very different life than Adam and Eve, Noah, Abraham, Moses, and even David. But even with the ways our lives are different, there's at least one way our lives are the same. Just as every one of them felt the consequences of a broken relationship with God all those centuries ago, we continue to feel the strain that comes with living in a world that's not as it should be, even now. Adam and Eve experienced life in a world where the earth had been cursed and where shame, pain, dissent, and strife were felt. All of this after having tasted the unhindered goodness of creation in perfect fellowship with God. Could you imagine how Adam and Eve felt after they knew what it was, but then after? Noah felt the excruciating pain that comes with witnessing his world being ravaged by flood and experiencing the loss of life. He had to start over with only his family by his side. Abraham knew firsthand the heartache of childlessness. Moses was all too familiar with the feelings of incompetency. He knew imposter syndrome long before it had a name. David lived with the pain of broken family relationships. And Jesus knew the worst pain of all, as he hung on a tree, betrayed by his friends, carrying the weight of all the sins of the world. So why should a set of ancient covenants matter to us now? Because just like these people spent their lives waiting for God to fulfill his promises of redemption, we also find ourselves waiting. No, we're not waiting for God to give us a descendant and make us into a great nation like Abraham did. But we're waiting for something. Maybe we're waiting for healings in our body, our hearts, our minds. Maybe we're waiting for restoration in a relationship. Or maybe we're waiting for companionship in the form of a child, a spouse, a friend. Or maybe we're waiting on that job, where to go next. In our waiting, we can look to God's covenants with Noah, Abraham, Moses and David and find hope. Because, like all the other covenants, the end of our waiting is wrapped up in the fulfillment of God's new covenant through Jesus. Why study the covenants? Because for those of us who follow Jesus, there is no covenant whose blessing we do not enjoy. As it turns out, our lives may not be all that different after all. Do you find yourself in a season of waiting? What are you waiting on or for? How can knowing God is working to fulfill his purposes bring hope to your situation? If you're waiting, I want you to tell me what you're waiting for, because I want to pray with you, for you. I'm in a season of waiting, awaiting what's next, awaiting how our life may change. But regardless, I know that waiting is hard, but I know that in the waiting, God is working things out for my good. Drop to me in the comments, in the chat, message me. Let me know what you're waiting for. Let's hope in it together. Let's pray through it together. Have a great night. I will see you tomorrow.